I love you so much that I'm going to have sex with you. And you might get pregnant, and that could really mess up your life, but I love you. That's not loving, is it? Is it loving the baby? We're going to create a situation here where we've got a baby that we're not ready for, that is created in the image and likeness of God that we want to bring up, but we're not ready to bring this baby up. We're not ready to take care of this baby. It's not looking out for what's best for each other. Now, most people say, well, it's okay because we have birth control, right? We can have sex without getting pregnant because of birth control. Does it work that way? No, for many reasons. ¿Quién es este? Is God giving us a message? Not the message I usually hear. I don't know. There's a statistic in America that 20% of teenage girls on the pill will be pregnant within 2 years. It has a failure rate. It doesn't always work. But that's not the biggest problem. There are many, many problems with this idea that if we use birth control, it's okay to have sex. First of all, it doesn't protect against diseases at all. And I'm not going to talk much about diseases because you all know there are sexually transmitted diseases and they're yucky. And if you're having sex when you're not married, it's not a question of if you'll get one, it's when. Because they're so prevalent. And the pill does nothing to protect against them. And the condom, according to many studies, does very little. So I'm not saying have sex but don't use a condom. I'm saying the only way to be safe from diseases is to save sex for marriage and marry an uninfected partner. Then you will not get a disease. But there are deeper problems. In America, there's this idea that women need the pill. You know what the pill is, the birth control pill? We need the pill to be equal. We need the pill so that we can have careers. This is bad thinking. This does not respect your body. Do you know how the pill works? It works by messing up your body. The pill has been classified in America as a class 1 carcinogen. You know what that means? It causes cancer. Use of the pill has been proven to cause cancer. It takes your body that's designed by God with these wonderful cycles, which don't feel so wonderful sometimes, but that's magically designed by God to remind us every month that we have the gift of bringing new life into the world. And the pill works not by helping our bodies be more healthy, but by making them less healthy, by making our bodies not work the way they're supposed to. It fools our bodies into thinking we're pregnant when we're not. And people say that the pill is a part of women's health. And this bothers me. It bothers me to look at you beautiful woman who was created by God, with your body exactly the way it is, your healthy young woman's body, and to say, here, you need to take this pill to change your body, and then you'll be equal to men. I think this is very dangerous. I think this sends a very bad message to you, that your body isn't good the way God made it, that your body needs to be changed to be equal, to be acceptable to men, to be equal to being a man's body. Women say we need the pill so that we can have careers and not get pregnant. God made you with great, wonderful gifts. A woman's brain is different from a man's brain. Women are much more in touch with our feelings. Women are much more able to recognize what we're feeling. Women are much more able to recognize what other people are feeling. Women are much more relationship oriented. Men are much more outwardly oriented. They can shut out their feelings more easily. They can shut out their feelings of fear, their feelings of sadness. They have much more of a desire to go out and conquer the world. And John Paul II said that these gifts are oriented to being fathers and mothers. That our gift of relationship, our gift of understanding feelings, is wonderful for young babies, for being mothers of young babies. Just as our bodies are created to carry new life, our emotions are created to nurture new life. And men are created to be strong and to be able to go out and to hunt and to shut out their feelings of fear, to hunt and get dinner. Very primitive. So he says that masculine gifts and feminine gifts are oriented to fatherhood and motherhood. Now, it's important to know that you can do whatever you feel God is calling you to do. It's important for women's gifts to be not only in the family, but to be in business, to be in government, to be in education, to be in every area of society. God gave you great gifts. And you can use those gifts in a career. You can use those gifts in service. You can use those gifts in many, many ways. But people say, well, how does a single woman who is doing those things not get pregnant? I'm not married. I've had a career for a very long time, and I've never needed the pill because I figured out how not to get pregnant. It's a very ancient secret. I save sex for marriage. 100% foolproof. It works every time. We need to get back to this sense of not that we use medication to change our female bodies, but that we respect the way they work. And that's what I want for you. Aside from all of those things, the pill doesn't respect our bodies. It doesn't protect us from disease. It doesn't protect us from what happens emotionally in sexual activity. Remember that oxytocin? That bond we talked about? Where sex makes people forgetful. It decreases their ability to think rationally. It causes a strong emotional attachment to form. That's great for marriage, right? Is it good for before marriage? Is it good for dating? Is it good for choosing who you're going to marry? No, because remember, your head and your heart have to agree. Your brain has to make a decision. And when a couple is having sex, that hormone messes up their brains and blurs their vision so they don't see each other so clearly. And that messes up dating. It messes up the process of trying to decide who you're going to marry. And it can cause women to marry men they shouldn't marry. It can also break up relationships that could be good marriages because it puts pressure, because the body is saying, I give myself to you forever. But the relationship is saying, we'll see. Having sex with someone is like taking your heart out of your chest and handing it to them and saying, please don't step on it. And when that couple breaks up, it's like stepping on it. Sex was intended to unite a couple together forever. The super glue of the heart, remember? When they break up, that rips apart. And it hurts. It's like if you super glued your finger to your thumb and then ripped them apart. What would happen? Parts of your finger would stick to your thumb and parts of your thumb would stick to your finger and you would bleed and cry. That's what happens emotionally when a couple who are having sex break up. Parts of her heart rip away and parts of his heart stay with her. And it hurts. And it's a level of pain that God never meant you to experience. And what they don't show on television, on American television and in the movies, is how much pain American women are in because of this. And when they come to me crying after a talk, it's always because of this. Sometimes it's a grown woman and a man, she's remembering an experience from 20 or 30 years ago when she was young, but it stays with her. Birth control doesn't protect you from spiritual realities, from spiritual consequences. You know what sin is? All sin is failure to love. When God tells us something is a sin, he's saying that we aren't made for it. He's saying that it hurts us. He says it's not respecting the image and likeness of God in us and in the people that are with us. Having sex outside marriage is a sin because it has great power to do damage to the image and likeness of God in ourselves and in others. And because God loves us, he doesn't want us to experience that. So when he makes these rules, it's to protect us. So, when a couple aren't married and they're having sex, are they loving each other? They may feel loving feelings. They may think they're doing what's best for each other, but are they? They're putting each other at physical risk, at emotional risk, and at spiritual risk. They're not loving. That's why chastity means saving sex for marriage. Not just because we won't get pregnant and we won't get a disease, but because that's how we find real love, that longing in your heart for love. Chastity, respecting sex, respecting our bodies, helps us find and live real love. And that's what you're made for. Now, before we end, I bet you have one question. If you're anything like I was, how far can I go? Right? If I just don't have sex, can I do all that other stuff? Okay. It's chastity. You know what the private parts of your body are? The parts that should be covered by a bathing suit? Was manufactured before 1964. Those parts are off limits. Messing with those parts is a part of having sex. It creates oxytocin. It's starting to speak the language of I give myself to you. Now what about just kissing? Well, kissing is nice. A kiss can be affection. A hug can be affection. But do you know what passion is? Passion is that point in affection when your body says, hey, I just thought of something. Sex would be fun. It's not smart to be affectionate for so long that it starts to create a desire to have sex. Because you're not going to do that. And that's not very loving. I love you so much, I'm going to make you want something, and then I'm not going to give it to you. Now, what does that mean? Sometimes guys will use that. They'll say, well, you know, it's your fault. I want sex now, so you did this, so now you have to give me sex. Is that someone who loves you? Is someone who says if you had sex with me, if you loved me, you'd have sex with me, do they love you? No. No. So, chastity means respecting the language of sex. And people want to say, well, exactly how far can I go? I can't answer that. But you can. If you listen to a very short story first. I want you to imagine that you're a guy. Okay? You're a boy. Eres un muchacho. Un muchacho muy guapo. You're a guy, and you meet the most incredible, wonderful woman. She's beautiful, and she's smart, and she's kind of like you, when you were a girl 10 seconds ago. And her soul is beautiful, and everything is beautiful, and you want to spend the rest of your life with her. So you propose, and she says yes, and you get married, and she gets pregnant, and you're the first one to see your little baby girl. I know, and you love her so much, and she comes from your love, and she looks kind of like your wife and kind of like you, and you bring her home from the hospital, and your wife puts little bows in her hair and dresses her in little dresses, and when she learns to walk, she says, Papa, and she brings you flowers, and you just love her so much, and she gets bigger, and she goes to school, and you take her on the first day, and you worry about her. Does the teacher understand that she's brilliant, yet sensitive? And she has to go to the bathroom after her snack. And she comes home at the end of the day, and she made an I backwards L, love you daddy card, or a yo amote daddy card. And then she's in 4th grade, And she plays the piano at her little recital, and you go, and she's so cute with her hair and her dress, and she waves at you. And then she's 15. And she comes home from school one day very happy and very excited because she has a date with a boy who's 18, who drives a van. I see you have vans here. I see you have boys who drive vans here too. How far is too far? How far do you want Mr. 18-year-old, Senor 18-year-old with a van to go with your little girl? Do you want him to do everything as long as they don't technically have sex? No. You see, that's chastity. When you and your date act the way you want Senor 18-year-old with the van to act with your little girl. That's real love, respecting the whole gift. Chastity also means respecting sex in the way we dress. And when I was a teenager, I didn't understand this because I thought, I don't care what boys wear. Why should they care what I wear? If they have a problem, they have a problem, right? They're perverts. You have that word here? They're perverts. Then I got older and I talked to men who were good men, who wanted to respect the image and likeness of God in women. And they told me what it's like to be 18 and a guy. And they said that because their brains are different, men are more visually oriented. They're more sexually affected by what they see. And they said they wanted to see a girl the way God saw them, to see their soul and their heart and what they're really like. But when they were dressed to call attention to their parts would scream out for attention. They'd say, hey, woohoo, no, look here, look at me, I'm a part. I'm a fun part. And they said it was very distracting for them because it made it easier to see the girl as a way to get what they wanted, which a boy's body wants sex whether the boy wants it to or not, because there's much testosterone in their bodies, and it makes it all crazy. So they wanted to be good, and they wanted to see the girl as beautiful in God's eyes and see her soul and what she wants and what she's like and what she loves in life, and to want what's best for her. But those parts would say, use me, pizza love, aquí, pizza love. So ask yourself how you want men to look at you. Do you want them to say, she's beautiful, and she'll be beautiful even when she's old because she's beautiful in her soul. She is just, her inner beauty radiates out. Or do you want them to say, wow, that's a fun part? We respect our bodies when we dress in a way that calls attention to us and not to our parts. That's a part of chastity. Now, it's the same with talking about sex. Girls always say, how do I tell a boy that I respect sex, that I want to save it for marriage? And I say, you've probably already told him. You've told him by the way you dress. You've told him by the way you talk. If you keep that, your innocence, if you keep that sense of being embarrassed when people talk about the details of sex, you send a message. You send a message to the boys who are looking for sex to say, to look somewhere else. That's the message you send to the boys who were just looking for someone to have sex with. The boys who are looking for someone to love, you're sending a message that says, I respect myself, and you need to respect me too. They say in America that there are girls that men date and that there are girls that they marry. If a man is just looking to have sex, that's the kind of woman he'll date, but that's not the kind of woman he'll marry. When they marry, they want a woman who respects her body, who respects herself. And that's not why we do it. We don't do it just to impress a man or to get the right man. We do it because our bodies have dignity, because we recognize that ourselves. We do that to honor God, regardless of what any men think. Final point. What if somebody's already made a mistake? What if you leave here tonight and you tell someone about this talk and say, oh, castidad es muy bonita, es wonderful, and you should live chastity, and it's so great, and it helps us find real love. And they say, it's too late for me. I already had sex. What do you tell them? Oh, sorry. Carry on. No. Virginity is beautiful. It's so important to protect virginity. But remember that virginity is a statement about the past. Chastity, castidad, respect for sexuality, that is a decision that anyone can make for the future. Anyone, regardless of the past, can make a decision from this moment on, I'm going to respect myself. And I want to challenge all of you today, as the adult women that you're becoming, to make that commitment. Commit to respecting your body. Commit to living chastity in the way you talk and in the way you act. Commit to saving sex for marriage. If you've made mistakes in the past, what's the first thing we do? We go to God and ask for forgiveness. If we're Catholic, we go to confession. Some teenagers tell me they're afraid of confession. What do you think happens in there? Do you think the priest has a gun? There's a trap door to a pit of alligators? They say, well, I don't want to shock him. Do you think you can shock the priest? Do you think you've committed some brand new sin that he's never heard before? He does this for a living. This is his job. He hears confessions all the time. Confession is where we go and God takes our sins away. And he puts his grace and his help in its place. So if there's something in your heart that's bothering you, in your mind that's bothering you, go to confession. Take it to God. And then make a commitment to live chastity. If you want to do that, there are some things you need to do. First, you need to keep learning about love and learning about chastity. I wrote a book. I wrote it in English, but it's been translated into Spanish. And it's all the questions. When I have a long time with teenagers, I have them write down questions, and then I answer them. I kept all those questions, and I answered them. How far can I go? How do I know when I'm really in love? Can gay people get married? All of the questions that teenagers have. And I wrote them, and in English, the book is called Real Love. En español, es tus preguntas y las respuestas sobre amor y sexo. It's a much longer title. They are selling these. I'm not selling them, but there's a bookstore that's selling them. I hear they ran out because they're stuck in customs, but they're taking orders. I don't make any money when you buy this book, but I want you to have it because you're going to have questions next week and next month and next year, and I want you to have someplace you can go to answer those questions. If you read in English, you can get it in English as well. It's called Real Love. You guys, you order from Amazon down here? You can get it on Amazon. Real Love. Or tus preguntas y las respuestas sobre amor y sexo. Either way. It's a good book, if I do say so myself, and I wrote it to answer your questions. Finally, finalmente, if you want to live real love, if you want to be full of real love, you must pray. Because the power to live real love doesn't come from us. It comes from God working in our hearts. Praying isn't just reciting a bunch of things because you're supposed to and maybe it'll make God happy. It's creating a relationship with God and letting His grace come into our hearts. So it's good to say prayers. Saying prayers is very powerful. They're words that we might not think of ourselves. It's also good just to talk to God. Just to say, here's what I'm having a hard time with. Please help me with this. I love you so much. Thank you for all the gifts you've given me. Please help me to live real love. It's important to do that every day. And as Catholics, to receive the sacrament, when we receive Jesus' body into our bodies, we become like Him. In English, they say you are what you eat. If you eat a lot of junk food, your body gets junky. If we eat the body of Christ, we become like Christ. I have a favorite scripture that I'm going to end with. It's John 15:9. You live in my love when you keep my commandments, just as I keep the Father's commandments and live in his love. I tell you this, that my joy may be your joy, and that your joy may be complete. Living chastity, living castidad, is not just about following rules so that we can get to heaven. That happens and it's nice. But you live in my love when you keep my commandments. Living God's commandments is about living in his love. It's about receiving and getting and experiencing and being surrounded in his love. I tell you this, that my joy may be your joy and that your joy may be complete. That's what I want for you. I want God's love and God's joy. And you will never find that in American attitudes about sexual freedom. You will never find that in an international Planned Parenthood program. You will find that in following God. That's what I want for each of you, muchachas muy bonitas. That's what I want for the youth of Guatemala. And if you hold fast to that, and you stand in it, and you spread it, you can change the future of your nation for love, for Jesus Christ. And that's what I want for you. I love all of you. You are very beautiful. You can find me on the internet at reallove.net. That's reallove.net. I wish I could stay with you forever because you are muchachas muy bonita y yo te amo. Mucho, is that no de ustedes? No sé. Pero I love you very, very much. Thank you. Good night.